pay in your company and utilize Service Autopilot to streamline the process. First thing we want to look at is you want to make sure you do your homework before you implement the piece rate pay system. So the thing you want to look at is how to run a job costing report and calculate your production per square foot per service that you offer. If you're running a lawn care and landscape company, you'd want to see what your production rate per 1,000 square feet would be for lawn mowing, fertilizing, aeration, overseeding, pretty much anything that's based on a square footage. This could also include snow removal in a residential driveway or a commercial parking lot. In the cleaning industry, traditionally you're going to look at the square footage of, say, a living room or a break room with some commonalities, and you can be at a production rate per square foot there for whether it be cutting the floors and waxing them, mopping, pretty much anything you would do in that residential or commercial cleaning setting, or how many square feet of counter space you have. You're going to get a production rate for that also. The square footages for each one of your properties need to be set up in a custom field in Service Autopilot so we can track the custom square footage for each property that we're looking at. So how to run a job costing report in SAP, it's going to be under accounting, go down to settings, this will come up, accounting reports. The report we're looking for here is revenue per service. So when you click on that, it's going to bring you to the revenue per service job costing report. So you're going to select your date range and resource. I would suggest selecting the resource for all your lawn mowing or all your floor waxing with stripping, whatever the service may be. So dial it down to the crew and the actual service being provided. I would suggest using the whole date range of the whole entire season or a whole entire year in the cleaning industry, so you got an average. And you can export this to Excel to clean up the data and make some sense of it. Additional items you need to look at is, touched on a little bit earlier, setting up custom fields to track whatever the service is being done. So if it's the grass area, it doesn't matter if you use the whole lot size or just the grass size, but whatever you're using, make sure you use that standard measurement across all the properties so you have a standard average. And the thing that you also want to look at is that you're calculating a realistic budgeted time on each job, including drive time. The major downfall of a piece rate pay system is if you do not have your accounting and budgeting in place, your employees will find out immediately and call you out on it. So you want to make sure that your job costing, your production per square foot is on par and accurate, including the drive time, because obviously we're going to start a job after we leave. So if we're at job A, job B starts when we leave job A with travel time. So you want to make sure you have the average drive time included in the job, or the specific job time if you're doing a landscape install or such. But I found, like in the lawn care industry, if you're mowing 25 or 30 lawns in a day, you need to find the average drive time and include that in each job. So what's next? Time to implement. I would suggest holding a meeting with your crew leaders first to get their buy-in. By getting your crew leaders to buy in and champion the system to their crew technicians, you have a lot better success rate of getting this actually implemented in your system. Then you're going to have that company meeting with those crew leaders, and as they're championing it, they're going to explain how implementing the system is actually going to allow your employees to make more money and have a better lifestyle. And when the company makes money, they're making money. So now you're on the same team and you're going to be making money together. So that buy-in is crucial. I would suggest having a 3-week trial period and position it as, if your straight pay is higher or your piece rate pay is higher, we'll pay you either one. So for instance, if they're budgeted for 35 hours and they only work 30, well, obviously we're going to pay them for the 35 to get that buy-in. So after the 3-week trial period, if you've done your homework and you've done it right, you've got the custom fields built out with square footage and production rates proper, you should, after 3 weeks and you have some buy-in, your employees should be beating the times and are going to want to do that piece rate pay system. So a major thing here is public accountability. I would suggest getting a very large dry erase board or a chalkboard, put it in your shop, list all the crews with their budgeted time, and then the following morning put the actual time. So there's a public accountability and almost like a challenge. So the crews are going to start competing against each other. So with that competition, there's going to be more of a buy-in and an opportunity for the teams to compete against each other and actually wholeheartedly want to do this to win and make more money. So after the public accountability, the thing you should be doing is make a big deal about the wins. So if crew number 1 crushes their budgeted hours by 10 hours and they get paid for an extra 10 hours that week that they didn't work, you want to reward them publicly and actually let everybody know that this crew beat the time, didn't have any complaints, and got paid an extra 10 hours they didn't work this week. Another thing that I found is if you can give gift cards to, not in a cash value, but to the movies or out to eat at Olive Garden or whatever their favorite restaurant may be, if you physically give them a gift card they have to go out and use, then they're going to actually remember it and appreciate it even more. But that extra incentive publicly and for them to use it and actually enjoy it with their family is going to basically reinstill the fact that this is a great system and they're going to want to use it more and more and be bought into it. So another thing is, if a team doesn't beat their budgeted goal, you want to involve everybody in the team, including the teams that have beat their goals. So we can have a publicly bought into system to help each crew that's not hitting their goals to improve their system and process. So by including everybody in, they're building the solution. They've actually got some equity now in the equation, and they've actually got 100% buy-in because they're coming up with the solutions to actually fix the problem. I think that's a key thing we need to look at. We as managers and owners cannot push the solution on our employees and staff. We need to involve them in creating the solutions, and by doing so, it's going to be more of a team buy-in and it's more apt to work. So review quality expectations as well. You're going to want to make sure you talk to all the crews, let them know what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and how it should be done the right way. You're going to actually want to get out in the crew and work with them to make sure that they're using the right process and system to meet those times, and show them that actually the times can be beat when you're on the crew with them if they're struggling. A lot of times if we have a new crew and they're not hitting their budgeted times, one of our foremen will get on the truck for half a day or a full day, and we'll see anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hour improvement in budgeted time. So if they're budgeted for 10 hours and they're maybe doing it in 11, we'll usually see that they'll come in around 9 hours when they're budgeted for 10. So sometimes all it takes is a veteran person that's in the system to get on the truck and just actually reinstill some of the things we've taught the guys. And sometimes they'll forget, or they'll be making wrong decisions of traveling halfway across town to get a drink when they should just probably stop right next door to the gas station next to them. The final takeaway is, do not discourage any ideas that they come up with to save time. Though in theory it may be an awful idea, the last thing you ever want to do at this point is be negative. You may want to just reformat their idea and work with them so they actually work with that idea and push it into a more positive event, so they're actually helping themselves save time. One thing that we do is we call it the 5-minute improvement challenge, where we'll send little hints to each crew, where one may be to, on a weed whacker button, while they're driving, the guy running shotgun in the truck, make sure the weed whacker extra head in the truck has got line on it. So if they run out of line in the middle of a job, instead of doing it on the side of the road, they just grab the line that's already pre-strung in the button, put it in the weed whacker, and they keep going. That way they're relieving some downtime, and they maybe save 4 or 5 minutes of idle time on the job, versus while they're sitting in the truck, they're just sitting there anyways doing nothing, so they could actually be productive and get that equipment ready for the next job. So other thing we hit on a little bit here is just get out in the field, make sure you're taking a look at it. You're going to have to get out in the field, or your manager's going to have to get out in the field and get dirty to make sure the guys understand the process and the system, and there's some quality expectations that are being met. Human nature, the guys are going to cut some corners, but you got to make sure you stand firm, send them back to the job, and make sure it's finished before you pay them for them. So the quick takeaways: this system is going to quickly separate your great employees from the weak ones, and I think the ultimate goal is to have a team of superstar employees. And if the employee's goal is basically just to keep a pulse and hit 40 hours and not bring value to the company, well, I think that's, at that point, this system is going to force you to either bring those people on board and get them to have more buy-in so they're more productive and valuable part of the team, or inevitably you're probably going to have to let them go. Your estimating system will be tested. This system, if there's not enough budgeted hours realistically to hit the times, your crew members are going to tell you that you screwed up the estimate. So you need to be candid enough with them here that if you screwed up the estimate, that you give them the budgeted time that they need. And on the flip side, if you screwed up an estimate and completely overestimated the price, and there's an extra 15 to 20 minutes above and beyond that they actually need, you should never ever take that time away from them, because you're going to lose complete credibility. You got to remember at this point now that the employees and the company are on the same team, and the last thing you want to do is jeopardize that. So let your team members benefit from the extra hours on that job, and you're both going to benefit together. There's going to be plenty of money at the end of the day. Don't worry about the minor details. If you've overestimated a property and the money's going straight to the employees, that's good. That's just going to reinforce that you're on their team and you're here for them. So right now, that is all the takeaways right now for the second part of the piece rate system. The third part is actually going to be more service autopilot based, how we go in and run the payroll, how we actually run the reports. Key things as you're going in and getting this Friday, you want to make sure that you have all budgeted hours for every job. They include travel time. You probably want to include shop time, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. That ensures them to check their oil, make sure they have the proper equipment, anything else you think that's pertinent that should be done in the morning. So I think we reviewed probably 2/3 of what we need to do for the piece rate implementation. And once again, if anybody's interested and they wanted a printed out version of this or a PDF or Google Doc of how we did this with checklists, we'd be happy to provide that too. Just leave a comment in the comment section below. If you have any other questions or comment ideas that we should work on or would want to see a video on, let me know too, so we can get working on that for you. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you Friday.